if I didn't have work at 5:30 in the morning, maybe.
Okay, so I am now recording. So we're doing a, per Mark's request, a last minute jury roundtable before our finale tomorrow. So we're basically going to go through each of the final two house guests, and everyone can speak freely about anything that's happened in this game. And we'll just go through, pros and cons of each final house guest. So since Brett won the final HOH, the discussion of Brett will go first. Once I feel the conversation is dying down or information is being repeated, then we will switch it over to Barrett. So whoever wants to go first, we're going to talk about Barrett. Or not Barrett, Brett, sorry.
Oh, well, his obvious pros are the comp wins. I mean, hello.
Hello, 8 comp wins. 8.
That's some king shit right there.
Yeah, all the times we could have taken him out, no one did.
Even when he like these, I think, to take him out, and it was, I think it was whatever.
It was 5.
There was a Barrett, and then Barrett's fast forward week.
Barrett's fast forward week were the 2 jury wins.
Even when Brett didn't want to win competitions, like in the middle of pre-jury, he had won like HOH or like the veto before, then in HOH, and he was like, "This is the week I was up." He's like, I think it was the trivia. He's like, "I don't want to win again. Like I don't want to win 3 in a row this early." And even when he didn't want to win, he still won like again. Like he won 3 straight in pre-jury. Like pre-jury went exactly like we all thought we were doing what we all wanted it as a consensus, but realistically, it was what Brett wanted early pre-jury. I mean,
one of the things I do think too is key to note: Brett at no point in this game was a final nominee, including all the way to the end. He has never been susceptible to the vote, and that's really impressive.
I guess never mind. I was about to say neither is Barrett, but then he was the last nominee.
He just made it like the last nominee, so that's something I think is a real big, kudos to Brett, because it's not like he was a target for a lot of this. And the fact that he was able to always get himself off the block, and then keep himself off the block on other weeks where he wasn't even touching noms, very impressive. As a 3-time nominee. So I think.
Yeah. You go.
I was just gonna say, I think. Like, my mind is very, very high on Brett going into tomorrow. I feel like Brett, he's someone I think I had a really good chance to work very closely with. I think if I did have to, I played a very myself kind of game, but if I had to pick one person that I probably was talking the most and getting closest with, it was Brett. So I feel like from that perspective, I did get to see a lot of how Brett plays. I had a lot of calls that felt good up until Final 5. And I don't know, I think that he's been someone who's had his head in the game throughout. I think he's always been able to think strategically about what his best move is moving forward. I think at the time when he was sending me off, he did the best job of it. I think he did a really good job of, sending me into the jury the least low on him of everyone. And just all around kudos. He's been called out at various various evictions as someone who needs to go, and yet there he is. I just think that's really impressive. It's been a big move. He's done some risky things, and there he is.
I think. I was gonna say. One thing I've always admired about Brett, especially in having like some of the more social, deep conversations, he's got to be one of the most like articulate people I've ever met. He has like a way with words that is not only like captivating, but also sounds smart. And that's hard to do because sometimes people do these like really smart words and you're just like drooling bored at the end of it. But I think Brett has a really good sense of communication skills, and I think that obviously comes from his like work and everything, but his social game was very strong, and he definitely was able to develop pretty strong personal connections. Because I felt like I was really close with him. Tyler felt the same way. I'm sure Barrett seems the same way. So it's like he did a really good job with that, I think.
Yeah, this is what I'm gonna bring up. Hard disagree.
Yeah, me
If
too.
if there is any reason if I do vote Barrett tomorrow night, the sole reason was because I think Brett's social game is ass.
I completely agree
think
with that.
every time I was on call with him, I felt like he was talking down to me, and I felt like he was belittling me. And I can genuinely say I didn't have one single one-on-one call with Brett that I got off feeling better about Brett than I did going in.
Mm-hmm. I can completely agree with that, especially that week when he put me up.
I do.
He
yeah.
really pissed me off that week. And like he
Didn't
was
you-
the one person that I was like, I want to win HOH just to put him up because of that conversation that we had. Like he made me
I'm
feel
sorry.
so on edge that week. And
I don't
did
wanna-
not like it. No,
I don't
no,
want to interrupt you,
Go ahead.
but did you ask him like, if it's a tie, what are you gonna do? And he didn't say anything.
He said, I can't tell you. And I
His-
was like, okay, so I'm going. And I literally
Brett-
was like, fuck that. Like,
Brett
no, he
preached
done
this
if I
whole
ever
thing
wanted
every
to.
time he won HOH or a veto. He's like, I'll let you know before it happens. I don't want to blindside anybody, yada, yada, yada.
Uh-huh.
When he won the HOH, when I went home that week, I said, like, what are the noms going to be? Like, what's going on? And he did not answer me. He did not tell me. The one thing he preached all game, he didn't do when it mattered most.
Yes, I agree.
One thing I
Yeah,
will
that's
mention.
I want to hear Landon's because he keeps on muting. And
Oh, sorry.
yeah, like, I
Landon,
want his initial reaction to Brett's social game.
I mean, so like I understand where Mark and Nick are coming from, but the thing is like again, like this is a comparative end game. Like we are voting between this or that, so we need to like, yes, like while personally I think Mark and Nick did not have the best conversations with Brett, I think Barrett has more than two people on this jury where he purposely ghosted, ignored, would talk down to, would talk poorly to, in the same regard. The thing I have with Brett is that while Brett, yes, was not giving all straight answers, he never lied to anybody. Barrett lied to people left and right. Brett, I can't point to a single time Brett has lied in this game.
Alex is raising his hand because he's sitting here.
Yeah, I won't say Brett. Brett never made a final two with me, which is one of the big significance. I was like, oh, Brett fucking wins. I'm fucking out of here. But yeah, Brett and Barrett lied to me twice in this game, despite being fairly close with them, and I was very honest with them. The first time was obviously the Keaton vote.
He lied right to my face during that week. Right to my face on call one-on-one.
Barrett, and that is the problem that I have, is that Barrett and Brett's sort of explanation to me, and I guess since we're just talking about Brett's explanation to me was he didn't want me to feel like I had to lie to anyone afterwards. He was like, oh, we want to make it like believable that you weren't a part of it, so we just didn't include you. And I'm like, cool, that's a nice start to a final three. And then Tyler told me about the Keaton vote 30 minutes before. And what did I do? Nothing.
Took her the final three.
And so it was just like I feel like their lies, especially towards me, have felt very unnecessary as someone who gave them pretty much everything. Obviously the second one was finding out, I think Nick was off call for this, maybe. Brett found the force key, not Barrett.
Wait, really?
Brett found the force key, not Barrett, and that is fine. The problem is Barrett went on call with me and was like, I'm only telling you this. I found the force key. I'm not sure I want to tell Brett yet. I want to wait a little bit. Barrett uses the force key. Brett leaves our house, like our alliance chat, and like sulks and pretends to sulk about like, oh, like you guys kept that from me. Like I feel really hurt by this. All the while they actually fucking knew about it, and Brett was the one to use it.
What? That's some fucking weird shit.
And I will not understand that. And
That is so fucking.
And when Brett said that
so
to me,
fucked up.
when Brett said that to me, he's like, oh, and Barrett like helped me find the force key that I used on him, and I was like, fucking excuse me? Like, And I that's why I said when I left, I was like, Brett, that last sentence could have been left out instead of like fucking twisting it in my fucking back.
Let
So
the person transcribing this note that Carl is laughing maniacally at all of this.
I'm sorry. It's just everything to me because it's so geniusly played. I mean, it's so genius.
and that's what I'm like questioning, and that sucks because it's like
I'm not seeing the genius behind it. I'm seeing.
I don't see the genius behind it as someone who
what do you
gave
mean?
them. Like, why
Well-
the fuck would they do that to
well,
like
here's the thing.
specifically to me? Because I never.
Let's break it down. Clearly, Barrett was his ride or die in this game. Clearly,
That is yes.
Barrett was going home against
Yeah.
anybody on the block. As if it was a Brett
was
or if it
HOH
was
that
Tyler,
week?
he's going home.
Landon.
Got it. Okay, yeah.
Like
That makes
if,
more
if
sense.
he plays it on Barrett, so it leaves Tyler and Brett. He knew that was coming. It seemed like he had the social connections to stay over Tyler.
Yeah.
And he did, and that's fine. And it's fine that he
and-
found it and he used it on Barrett. That's not the move that like we're saying is wrong. I'm saying the approach that they had to me as someone who like worked with them very closely was very mishandled as someone who quite clearly shown as sitting here in the like in third place. Like I was with them all the way. And
but,
so
but
for
they're
that
the only
to
person
come up,
you burned.
Hmm?
But like in this move, he only burns 1 of 7 jury votes. He knows he has 4 locked.
Bitch, where?
I mean, like, sure, yes, like we can all like harp on the fact that he burned an ally in this, but like, man he has 8 competition wins.
I will literally vote Barrett just to prove your point of having 4 votes locked wrong.
Oh my god! Don't
No,
do
I'm
that.
kidding. I'm kidding. I think Brett's like tops are far and away better than Barrett's in this game. But I just personally, from my perspective, I think Brett's like minuses of his game, from my point of view, are a lot lower than Barrett's.
and that's
Where I
kind
think
of where
Barrett's
I'm
kind
at,
of like
too.
but I think obviously the 8 comp wins and everything he's did it skews it. But
And I agree with a roundtable like this. I think it's good to as much as we want to highlight the highlights of especially the people we want to vote for, it's good to critique the games as well. These people aren't. I don't think either of them have played a flawless game in any way. And I think it's good to talk about the negatives as well, so we get the full.
Yeah, I think Brett speaks very highly when it comes to who he's working with. He would always tell me, he's like, I get harped on this in games all the time. Like I stick with the people because if I'm like, I want to be happy with the winner. That's what he told me. He's like, if I want people in the end that I'm going to be happy are there, and I will do anything that I can to make sure that people I am not happy with winning are out. And so, that seems to me, it's like I mean, even if he's winning outright, it's like okay, so you didn't want me to win. That's great. You didn't want Nick to win. You didn't want Tyler to win. You were
just thinking the same thing.
Yeah, I was thinking that too. Like, fuck me, I guess.
Yeah, literally.
And so, I personally, I mean, and I will say this, like, I mean, I'm critiquing Brett on that, but I'm also like, for me, my perspective is a little different on that. Like, I obviously we all want to be happy with the winner, but for me, it's also like I want to feel like I was. I want to be happy with. I want to feel like I was involved in the winner's story as opposed to like, necessarily being like, oh, this person should have won. Like, I would not be happy. Like, I would be happy if Tyler won or if Nick won. I'd be a little disappointed because I wasn't a part of their story. But
That's
would
kind of where
feel
I feel like I feel like I wasn't a part of either Brett nor Barrett's story. So that's kind of where I'm more open to Brett winning or Barrett winning. Not that I don't think I'll vote for Barrett, but I think that's why I'm more open to that idea.
Okay, hot take. Why do y'all feel the need to be part of the winner's story? Like, sometimes not being part of the winner's story is being part of the winner's story. Like, I think it's
because we all have egos.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's literally
I
it.
don't
Literally
feel
it.
that way.
We all want to be like, at least for me, like I want to be included. Like I don't want to vote. I don't want to like.
Well,
it.
For me personally, it's more so. I feel like I didn't connect with Brett on like a personal level as much as I did Barrett. So like I don't know. Like I'm more drawn to vote for someone that I connected with more so on a personal level, more so than like.
Especially because in my point of view is like these games are exactly that. Like they're meant to have fun. and like I never had fun with Brett once. Like
Oh, I
I
had
can
fun
respect like I said, I don't know who like I'm leaning Brett obviously because I respect the game, but like that's where
I'm
I'm
just
like
like
I'm
open.
having that disconnect.
Yeah, I'm open.
I think to transition a little bit into talking some about Barrett's game in particular, kind of on that same wavelength of, that personal connection. I'm kind of the opposite of Nick, where I was able to have calls with Brett where I felt like we did connect more personally. Whereas with Barrett, I feel like, I'm definitely aware that I can come across this very theatrical character. And I think Barrett, when I had conversations with Barrett, yeah, a little bit of shade at Landon, a whole lot of shade at fucking Gwen.
Yeah.
But,
I was disgusted in that reenactment. You know, yeah, I was disgusted in that
I'm ready to
reenactment.
watch it. Like I think in the same vein, I think Barrett's approach to talking to me was very much focused on haha funny. Like I don't think it ever got very deep at all. We didn't call very often. Most of our messages were kind of like little jokes, and that was about it. So I don't have that same level of connection with Barrett that I
and
did.
mine is. Oh,
Brett.
sorry. I'm trying to interrupt you.
Wait, no, that's pretty much.
My question is like,
Mine-
what's more important? Because like I had the same like personal connection with Barrett, like where he didn't talk a ton of game. It was mostly like just friendly stuff. But on the flip side, me and Brett had game talks, and it never came to fruition with me and him. Like the
I think it
Keaton
just comes
call,
down to
he lied straight
preference.
to my face. Like every time I was on call with Brett talking strategically, like I never felt good about it.
That's
I think,
that.
I think that. Sorry, Tyler.
You can go.
Okay. I think that just kind of comes down to preference. Like at least for me, I had more than enough game talk with both Brett and Barrett. But I know that Barrett and I had literally spent 3 hours on a call just shuffling music tastes and doing all that stuff. Like I have probably 3 videos of my like DR confessionals that is just Barrett and I singing and playing his guitar. Like so I have a much better personal and like game. I had both a game and like personal relationship with Barrett that was very high in comparison to Brett. But I guess my main thing is that when it came to our alliance, which I don't know if y'all know the name of that yet, but it's really
Oh, we
awesome.
do.
The Donkadonks, I'm very sorry.
Mhm.
I think that's why we're all so mad that was a 3. Like that
You
was
stole
like
that
the
from
worst,
my Instagram
the
bio.
worst possible alliance name of all time. I think maybe.
we named it, we changed it to B-Donks, but it's not much better. But anyways, my relationship with Barrett was like very one-on-one, but like any fun I had with Brett always sort of seemed to be like Barrett and Brett. So I didn't have much of an individual perspective with Brett unless it was game talk. So I guess it just kind of depends on what you want. I think a mix is probably preferred, but on Mark, on your end, it seems like it's very like one or the other. So
I
Okay.
I just
You
think
go.
I don't think these points against Brett are reasons to vote against him as a winner. I think he should be the winner. I'm just exploring each game from my perspective. That's all.
Should we try to focus, because we talked a lot about Brett's pros and cons, and then we seem to be shifting into that discussion of the mix without really talking too much about Barrett's game. Should we try
Yeah, I
to?
just want to say something really quickly before we do that, Tyler. Like, I understand where people are coming from with not having like the super most personal connections with Brett, but I do want to like level the playing field. Brett is 30 years old. Brett has a career. He has a boyfriend. Like, I don't mean this to be shady. Barrett is 21. He is unemployed. He does not go to college right now. Like, he has way more free time than Brett does. And like, I respect the amount of time that I got to talk to Brett and the conversations I had with him being 30 and a very driven professional. So like, I do want to like, Brett's free time is far more limited than Barrett's.
But you sign up to play these games knowing your free time. Like I don't think.
I guess
For sure.
And I guess the
For
point.
sure, but like he has less free time.
Yeah, I guess that's the point of like that he's trying to make, and to try to again push a little more into talking about Barrett's game. And that is something I guess with Barrett. Seemingly, I guess we can't make too many judgments about what people are doing with their time, even if they're unemployed in the pandemic.
I mean, he wasn't. I mean, he was talking to me about how he was going to jobs and stuff. He did videography
I didn't want this to be shady. It's just like Brett has a 9-to-5 job every day, sometimes longer. Like,
and that's where Barrett's that's where Barrett's strong suit comes in, is he used that extra time to build those relationships with us, or a couple of us that we're considering voting him. Like, he used that time to his benefit.
Well, I don't think he did for everyone. That's my issue.
I have a comment on that. If we're gonna, I think we can start talking about Barrett.
Yeah, let's talk about Barrett.
So my whole thing with Barrett, as someone who worked with him since day 2 and got that like very strong vibe, I don't think it's quite very outlandish to say that Barrett's social game in the like first 2 weeks was great. In my opinion,
Agreed.
he had everyone like in the fucking back of his hand or whatever it was. Like, he had everyone in his pocket. He was in every conversation. And something that he told me was that as soon as Landon started targeting him, he backed the fuck off. Which obviously it's not I don't think he handled it in the best way, because he stopped talking to Landon. Which, you know, that is a negative. But I'm saying he was able to realize that, oh, I'm playing a little too strong. Let me back it off and more focus on like the people that I already have some more stable connections with. I'm not saying that it was like a perfect thing, but he was able to sort of navigate his own threat level. And after Landon really like targeted him and went after him, and even when he won the HOH to try and get like Landon out after that, I don't think people were necessarily seeing Barrett as big of a threat as he was initially. So I think that's like a pretty good like pro to his game. And I know you guys like someone that's out there and in the open and is like kind of fighting off that target. But first, and it's again basing them off of your own game. My game was keeping myself safe as long as I could and navigating that way. And I think Barrett did a really good job with that. So that's my little like spiel.
I think too often in orgs and in, you know, Real Big Brother and Real Survivor, the games of the finalists pre-jury is far discounted more than it should be, because what you do pre-jury sets up what you're going to be able to do in the jury and to get to the end. So I think Barrett's first 2 weeks really helped him make the connections to where he can feel good with people, and he can make the connections with specifically Alex and Brett to get that final 3, to get him to the end.
Agreed. I think that Barrett's definitely been someone who has at points had his highlights. You know, the early game for sure. You'll see in my confessionals, I was like, he's the threat right now. I gotta watch him see.
Same.
And then he definitely did sort of falter off a little bit out of the spotlight come the jury, to the point where I think, you know, he literally wasn't nominated until tonight, like as a final nominee. And he was able to he was a target. He was someone people were going after, and yet just never found himself in that danger position. I think that's something to his credit as well. I do think that, you know, from my perspective, I was able to have those strategic conversations with Barrett, where I was able to like come together to vote with Barrett. We saw the benefit strategically of each other for X amount of days in the game, as, you know, as fellow targets in this game, who would get farther together than divided. And I definitely think those are a lot of highlights that should be, you know, up for his game. He had a couple competition wins. I think he was holding his own. I'm going to be interested to see if he threw any competitions. I have a hunch.
How many comps did he win?
He won 3, I believe.
Oh.
He won a veto in HOH, and then another veto.
Oh, see, this whole time I thought he had 0. Okay.
And
all
another
right,
part of an HOH.
Well, that's the thing. With 3 competition wins, he did nothing with any of them.
He tried to take you. He took you.
Yeah, I was just gonna
yeah,
say
he literally took out the
back
biggest
toward
player in the game
you.
at that point.
And then his first veto, he won veto week 1, and then in his veto, to be fair, with the prospect of knowing, prospect, that's not the right word, but I'm sticking with it, of knowing that Brett, myself, and him were a final 3 and a final 5 position, him at that point, at least from week 5 on, for me, Barrett, and Brett, our whole thing was we just got to make sure that these people don't win comps. And so at that point, Barrett's comp win is mainly to not do anything because he knows he's making it to the end. And that's something that I kind of struggle with now as I've worked with him for so long and knowing that he still kept things from me when I was super open with him. And so part of me, and it might be like a little bit of like anxiety or like shock overcoming me of not, making it or whatever, but I don't know how real he was with me at this point. Knowing that he was in cahoots with Brett and they like specifically set something up that was more theatrical just for me. And Brett also seemed very confident that Barrett would have taken him to the end, whereas Barrett and I had very different conversations.
I think that's going to be my biggest thing. Like, I think I know who I'm voting for, but if Barrett gets on call, I think we both expect both Barrett and Brett to be very well talkers. I don't think any one of them is going to tank the questioning or tank the speech. So I think, like, if you're going in like open-minded, like, you're not going to get much in terms of like one being far head and shoulders above the other. My big question for Barrett is if he answered 3 more questions correctly tonight and won the final HOH, who he would have taken. Because if he says Brett, he loses. I don't understand how he could get a single vote.
I think he loses my vote too, honestly.
I don't think he will say that, because otherwise he was lying in my goodbye message. He was lying in Nick's goodbye message.
Yeah.
But,
wait, what was he saying in your guys'
goodbye that's a good. So, like, how did you guys feel about goodbye messages from these two?
So, here's one thing I want to talk about, because I was going to bring it up as well. In terms of also just the way the send off was, as well as the goodbye messages, because I feel like they both kind of go hand in hand. I think Barrett did a poor job sending me off. He has a very big habit of like just dropping you like a hot pocket, I guess. And from my perspective, I was like, Barrett is someone I was working with. I know if I was taking him out, I would straight up tell him. Like, I'd be like, I wouldn't ghost him for a week. And I felt very ghosted by Barrett in the week I was going. I felt ghosted by pretty much all 3 of you, to be honest. Nick's the only one who talked to me. And that was kind of like, from a strategic point, whatever. From a personal standpoint, that sucks. And that was very much more Barrett than Brett. Brett, at least, made the effort to call me after the veto meeting to talk to me, talk about, even if it was some bullshit. And
not making any excuse for Barrett necessarily, but I do know that the day you left, he like wasn't even talking to me much. He had really it was a busy day, but he should have taken that, like we said, with the free time. He should have done that.
Barely talked to me all week. The only call we had was when he won veto, and I had to ask, like, "Hey, can we call you have the veto?" And I'm like, "No, please hear me out." And even then, it was like just bluff crap at that point. But it was just like it's just a thing. I think with that send off the entire week, it was like bad handling of me, and I'm like on a personal level yucky, like feeling yucky about it. I don't know how much that'll affect my vote. I don't think it'll affect my vote too much. But moving into, I guess, my perspective then of goodbye messages, I totally felt like Alex and Brett were 100% just trying to pad that jury a bit with their goodbyes. Like, it just felt like I love you, you're great, bye. And then Barrett was the only one who said that you guys were in an alliance, and the only one who was like, if I have the chance, I'm going to take Brett out. The only one. And other than Nick, who's like, fuck all these people. But,
I mean, just in general, for me, that was how I wanted to treat. I wasn't treating goodbye messages as jury pampering, but I was treating like goodbye messages as a Landon, fuck you. I liked you guys, and so it was less that. I will say though, had I known, because I didn't even know that Barrett had told Landon about the final 3. Like, had I known that, I just wasn't mentioning game at all in any of my goodbye messages really, and so all of mine was just about what I liked about you, how we had a nice time. So that it wasn't necessarily jury pampering in my mind, but I'm also not gonna cuss people out on goodbye messages. What the fuck?
No,
but I mean, I think
Landon did.
But maybe it comes down to articulation though, because Barrett said very nice things about me, but it felt genuine. It felt like it was more than just jury pampering. It felt like he was reliving the 50 days we spent together and talking about the highs and the lows and kind of where this game goes from here for him, but also our friendship. It felt genuine with Brett and with, no offense, Alex. Brett and Alex. It felt very hey, you were cool, great playing with you, hope not see you too soon, I hope to be at the end. With Barrett and Tyler and Nick, I felt like, okay, like it felt like they were actually pulling experiences from the game and were like, here's what I'm talking about, and like here's why I'm saying what I'm saying to you today on day 50.
That's
Yeah,
fair.
I have the same feeling. Like I know none of my goodbye messages were really like they were all kind of bland and vanilla, but the one thing that sticks out about Barrett's is like it was always a running joke when he would like send me voice messages instead of texting. So he was driving home, and like he wouldn't know how to like stop talking in the voice message, so it was always really awkward. And like that just became like a running joke with us. So like even in like a goodbye message, he like made the end of the goodbye message like a very awkward ending, and it was just very funny. And like Landon said, it came out very genuine.
Didn't he do like a landed with you? Didn't he do like the like goodbye message
Yes,
music or
he
something?
did.
He
Like
says,
Me too.
about even though we didn't half the game, he still pulled in elements from like day 10, day 14, and I was like very proud of like
which
Justin
shows,
can concur. I cried at his goodbye message. I cried.
and
So it
which I
shows
think
how
shows how like strong necessarily that Barrett's like social game was early on. Like even if he like faltered off later, like he genuinely got to know all of us, I think, and like knew how to like pull at our heartstrings. I won't get any goodbye messages from them because they both told me that their goodbye messages to me, like when I was nominated against
Me.
Landon. Oh, I was nominated twice, and Nick, I guess, was just like oh, like fuck Barrett for taking you out, fuck Brett. Like it was like a mainly joke thing because they knew I wasn't going. So I never.
I think the main question tomorrow night that we have to decide is Barrett's strong social game enough to overcome Brett's absolute domination of this game?
I don't think so.
You go, Nick.
Okay, so I just want to say I feel like I felt like I had a strong social game with Barrett, and like that's like where I'm at right now because I feel like especially in the beginning, I felt really close with him, and then Mark kind of like stole me away. But like Barrett in the beginning was very much like I want to work with him, like I'm sticking with Barrett, like because I've watched him play before, and I was like I like him, like he's just like someone I was very drawn to, and then like as the game kept going, I felt more so like I don't know what's going on between us. I don't know why we're not close. Like I don't know like does he not trust me? And then like it all clicked as I like went out and everything like that. But that last week when we made that deal where we would like keep each other safe and then that he was going to boot out. Like it was just all so unnecessary and I just felt like
I do have.
we're friends and like why are you kind of like playing 4D chess with me and like instead of just being like this is what's up and like he specifically waited until after the veto even after me being like Barrett, I think I lost. Like I know I lost the veto. Like because I can't come out and say I DQ'd. So I was just like Barrett, I lost. Like Barrett, I lost. Like 100%. And he still was just like, well, like we could still take Alex out if I won, and this and that. And meanwhile, fully knowing that he was gonna be like the vote or like whatever, and it was just like very much like why are you still playing me? And then once he was the sole vote, he was very much like, yeah, you're leaving. We've had a final three this whole time. Sorry. Like, and it was like, I don't know. I'm very much like, am I sour with you or am I not type of thing. I want to know if he was fake with me or not. So.
I got the same kind of thing on mine from both, I'd say, where it was very vibes were very clear that I was going, especially once I lost that veto. I pitched my case to Barrett and he was still being like, what makes you think you're gonna go? I mean, I'm aware of how much of a threat Nick is. Oh, you think Brett's not gonna vote to keep you? Why? Why would you think that? I guess I maybe think about possibly considering talking to Brett about it. And then after it was like locked in that I was a final nom, Brett calls me the next day to be like I'm not sure what I'm doing yet. I'm gonna weigh out my options about what I'm gonna do, what's best for me, and just how who I stand a better chance against moving forward in this game, which very clearly, obviously, from both of them, BS. And it's just kind of like a slap in the face from both of them. And I'm trying to I feel like because that's like me. I'm straight up. I'd be like, yeah, I'm voting out XYZ. Bye. You know what I mean? And so I don't know. I think it was unnecessary at that point. Like, I'm going. You don't need to lie to me.
I do have a question, and it's actually for Kendall.
Yeah. Hi.
Because I just want to know, because you've sat in, I don't want to be mean here, I'm not trying to be, I hope you know, like you sat in the jury and everyone's like coming kind of just being like, Brett's awesome, Tyler's awesome. I want to know how
Mark's awesome.
Yeah, whatever. So I want to know how your game was like with Barrett and Brett, like before you were evicted, especially because they saved
We
you.
were
And
okay. Like me and Brett were pretty close. Like there wasn't like a whole lot of game after like the whole like blindsiding Keaton thing. Like me and Brett were pretty just like chill. Then me and Barrett were chill, and then Barrett was more on the fact that Barrett came to me and was like, "Hey, don't go on the house call." Like he was a homie. And so, but game wise, I feel like obviously we all know Brett dominated. But here's what's funny: people were threatened by Barrett. I was never threatened by Barrett, ever. I never was like, I'm threatened by your social, this and that. I'm like, no. Like, you don't threaten me.
That's fair.
I can agree with that. I wasn't necessarily threatened by Barrett because I thought I was close with Barrett. But yet again, everyone thought they were close with Barrett.
Oh,
I was just like, Barrett loves me. Right, exactly.
I have a question. So we said that if Barrett says he wins final HOH and he would take Brett, he would automatically lose our votes. Is there something that Brett can say or do tomorrow night that will lose any consideration of voting for him?
I think I just need them to own their games. I think, as much as in my own head I can say these are the pros, these are the cons. If they can't recognize their own pros and their own cons, then they didn't have a good read of their own game. And I think if Brett, I don't think Brett will, but if he's not able to really show that he is aware of his own great moves, then that might be enough to be like, no.
He better have a good explanation to why he fucked over Alex the way he did with the force key, because that pisses me off.
That's my question. Let me ask that,
And if we would have known that before, I would have been like, why did you get their asses out?
I would have.
Personally, I don't.
Oh, we all would have, knowing that information.
I mean, personally, I don't give a rat's ass about the force key. Y'all can go for it all you want. I see the complete strategic benefit of the force key, and like, sure, if he fucked over one vote for himself at the end, whoop-de-doo.
I just think it's stupid, like what they did.
I think they should have owned it at some point, but like ultimately, is this like that down is
it's not a game losing move.
No, it's not a game losing move, but for me, it opens up a lot of other questions about my actual relationship and integrity of like my alliance with them.
What else were they lying about?
And that
goes back to Landon's point about that move just loses.
It's more of a
vote.
personal thing for me.
Yeah, right. That's what I was just gonna say. I think that it definitely is something that you should like.
That's what I want to bring it up.
Yeah.
And but I also, I guess for me, when I'm like trying to think about like what Brett could say, because like he doesn't necessarily have my vote really, and it's more of like what Barrett says. But my personal perspective of looking at both of their games is aside from the comp wins, I personally don't see much of a dominance as opposed to Brett and Barrett. And I kind of would like, and I know it sounds really dumb, but knowing how closely we all worked together in making the decisions and talking through things, I kind of want to see Brett be a little bit humble. I think, and I know that sounds like dumb for like a jury thing, but if he comes in here kind of saying like, oh, I had like Alex and Barrett wrapped around my fingers doing whatever I wanted. Like, I don't think that was the case. And so if he says something like that, that would like kind of like confirm for me that I don't want to vote for him.
Landon is continuing his theme of not being able to read this house correctly. Like, this house has been a sensitive house since week 2. Like, Brett has to know that he can't be a cocky asshole. Sure.
But like, he's not going to come out here and be like, I had Barrett and Alex wrapped around my finger. But like, if he even says something like 1/10 of that, like, I don't think it's wrong to say that, because y'all proved it with your actions. Y'all proved it. He was the biggest threat since top 7, and y'all consistently did things to benefit him.
Yeah, I think it has to be a good mix.
I agree. There's a way to defend your game and make yourself look good without becoming overbearing.
Okay, are we thinking that the social media coordinator for fucking
no
TransLink
But
Remember
the
the
question
fucking thing
was,
called?
what could Brett? The question was,
Yeah.
what could Brett do to lose
Okay,
your vote?
can we rephrase the question? What can Brett realistically say? Like, Brett's never going to say that. Brett fucking works in social media, works in PR. He's not going to say anything like that.
Well, that's what I
You
said
never
earlier. Like, I don't think
know.
no one between this final two, with the social media coordinator and the podcaster, like
Neither of them are
gonna
going to say
they're
anything.
both good. Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
that's going to be like a turn off in terms of saying something that's like inappropriate or rude or any of that.
Exactly.
I just personally, given the game that Brett has played every week, I can't point to a single move in which something went not his way. I just can't see anything that Brett could tell me that would deter me away from. I think it's Barrett's burden to completely change the narrative tomorrow. Like, I can't point to a single week where I'm like, Brett, that was a bad move. Brett, you shouldn't have done that. Barrett, there's plenty of weeks where I point to things. I'm like, you, like, him not talking to myself or Tyler at certain times. I'm like, sure, Brett didn't have the best social connection with Nick and Mark. No offense, y'all won 0 competitions combined. Brett's weakest.
So just because they
Zero,
can't
zero
win,
competitions combined, but 2 jury votes.
Correct. Yeah. But like,
So
but in terms of the game, Barrett lost a lot of social connections with Tyler and myself, who combined have 5 competition wins. He took a large risk with
and he's in the final two.
ghosting certain people.
But
the one thing I want to say, because I guess when I asked what people could say to win or lose a vote, I kind of focused on just Brett and saying, like, if he doesn't own his game. I do want to specify that it would be the same for Barrett if he goes in the same way, where he's not able to own his pros and cons. That would for sure lose my vote. But I want to know, because you guys were mentioning, that Brett has to come in with a certain level of humility. If Barrett were to come in and be like, I did this, blah, 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 would you guys hold him to the same standard as Brett?
I
think no, and here's why: because he is blatantly losing the game.
they're coming from
He
different
has to
points.
do something. He has to be abrasive and own moves, and like Landon said, he has to change the narrative, or he's losing.
Okay, I just wanted to ask to see.
1000% agree with Mark. He has
I
to come out and be aggressive and show me why he deserves my vote.
And I've
Because
never
right now,
seen
I can't
Barrett
point to
really be
anything.
too aggressive, to be honest with you.
Exactly.
So,
That's the thing. Is like
Yeah.
he needs to be.
but
I think he
it's
will be. I
also
think he's
Barrett's
going to
first.
surprise you. I think
It's
he
also
will
Barrett's
be.
first finale. He's only played 3 games, I think. This is his 3rd game, something like that. And so he's had little experience compared to all of us.
Yeah, we've all
He
been
has
along
a
for
Big
while.
Brother podcast, for God fucking sake. He hosts a Big Brother podcast with thousands and thousands of viewers every other day. There's no excuse not to articulate your game in a way that should convince 6 people plus a pre-jury vote why he deserved to win this game. And he should know, because I told him, Nick told him, Tyler told him, if you vote us out, you're going to lose to Brett at the end. And here we are, completely looking at this narrative where I told him at 6, Tyler told him at 5, and Nick told him at 4. If you vote me out, you're going to lose to Brett at the end. So you're going to have to explain to 3 of us for sure, who fucking told you days ago what was going to happen, how we are wrong in the situation when right now the narrative is saying Brett is going to win this game 6-1, 5-2, 4-3.
True.
I will say, I definitely think it is impressive for Barrett to be there at the end with this early into his org career. Speaking as someone who won my first org, so, I do think when push comes to shove, I'm going to focus on this game in particular. I don't really care about org history. Like, that's not going to affect my decision that he made it earlier than. And Brett's been around for however long.
Oh yeah, no, I was mainly saying that, like, I don't know any idea what to expect from Barrett, like, in the finale. That's more what I was trying to get at.
Sure.
Okay, I wasn't sure, but I do think both of them. I think it's good we're having a roundtable because I think it's able to, get that more into. Thank you, Mark. Just to get into more of a open-minded mindset about this. I definitely think I'm coming into tomorrow a little more ready to hear people out as opposed to just kind of be like, this is what I'm doing.
Yeah.
But
I
no,
just
I
want to
definitely
learn more about both of their games because we were friendly, but not strategy. You know what I mean?
And I think I'm going to be interested to hear how they sell their games and also just what questions are asked and how they answer them because I think that'll be important.
I want to ask y'all, as someone who worked closely with them, what, when it comes to splitting their games apart, what Brett do? Like that was his like what can Brett own as his own? Like that, like literally not like I just want to know like what can Brett own as his, and what do we think Barrett can own as his?
And
I
and,
don't
and this is
know.
going to be a question I point to Tyler. Like my backdoor at the fast forward, like it seemed like this backdoor plan of me was being constructed before the veto ceremony, Tyler, when you chose not to use the power of veto. Did
Well
he have
before.
any say?
For Chloe. So from my perspective, it was I called with Gwen. We discussed that Landon's playing everyone. Let's see if we can what we can do. She'll talk to Mark. I'll talk to Barrett, and then I don't know if she ever called with any of them because I did not follow up with Gwen.
I would have assumed me and Gwen would have called it, but like the earliest memory I have is calling with Barrett.
But I guess
And
my
then I've
question
called
is
with
like this was still happening underneath Brett's HOH,
Yes.
where Tyler, you could
Yes.
have chosen to use the veto, and he could have put me up.
I
As a
specifically
renom?
remember telling Tyler, Landon wants to make jury so bad. Let's
Correct.
do it this week and not give him the one thing he wants.
Did Brett have any say in kind of like telling you, Tyler, no, don't do that? Because like, he salvaged a really good relationship with me when he did not do that. Because I gave him some credit for that because when I figured out the timeline of this plan, I was like, well, I appreciate you not biting into this plan a week earlier because I lose my key at 10, but then who knows what happens at the fast forward at 10? Maybe I still go out and then I'm pre-jury.
So
I
my own perspective was not planning on doing it at all that week. It's something we're setting up.
Tyler shut it down the second I brought it up.
Yeah, I shut it down. Like I called Mark before I called anyone else once I won the veto. I was not using it. But when I did call with Brett, he also was like, please don't use it. But it just, I do think it's just more like a coinciding thing. It's not Brett was like, don't use it. And I was like, yes, father.
Yes, father.
But besides that, Alex, to be completely honest, I don't. That's the thing, like that, and I've been saying it to the jury for the past like 2.5 or 2 weeks that I've been here. Like, I can't necessarily point to a thing where Brett can claim something like strategically. I don't think Brett can like claim anything that Barrett can't or the house can't. But the thing is there's things I can point to Barrett and go, you fucked up here, and I can't point anything to Brett for that. So yeah, I mean, to answer your question, there's nothing I can point to Brett and be like, this is his move, except for like the social connections that kept him safe at 5. But besides that, not really.
The only other thing I can think of. Sorry to cut you off, Kendall.
Oh, I just said I couldn't play a move to him.
I think the only thing I can think of that I would credit Brett over Barrett is because of the competition wins, Brett was able to hold direct power. And when you have that power, you have the final say on what you do, regardless of who's telling you X, Y, Z. And yes, I said Z, I'm Canadian. I think that, push comes to shove, if you have the power, you get to decide what happens. And Brett had the power so much more often than Barrett did that I think in those cases, Brett had the final say on what happens. He'll make sure, that people are comfortable with it, but he had that final say.
That is true.
I mean, I don't know about y'all, but I feel like we answered a lot of questions and debated both games. I feel pretty good heading into tomorrow night.
I do too.
I feel good.
I do too.
I was gonna ask if everyone felt good. Awesome.
Yeah,
So
feel great.
I'm
I mean,
gonna
I don't
stop.